good evening, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another live edition of Legends from the Past and the Future show. I am Armand, and Ayana, how you doing tonight, Ayana? Ayana, how you doing tonight?
I am doing well, Amon. How are you?
Doing great, man. We on a roll. We had a nice night last night. How'd you like last night? So, audience, we having some difficulties with Miss Moo Young, but we're gonna get through this. Ayana, can you hear me? Okay.
I can you great.
Okay. How what'd you think about last night?
Oh, so heartwarming to, we what he's talking about is we awarded our first two scholarship recipients as a company, two high school seniors, athletes doing great in school on their way to college. We were able to award them some scholarships, and it was such a heartwarming ceremony.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
Wonderful event, and just happy to be a part of this.
We actually awarded three legends at our event with a legends plaque, and now we gave out two scholarships. The show is on a roll. We are up to 43,000 followers. What more could be asked? Yeah, we just gotta improve our sponsorship. And we rolling. What you think about that?
I think we're doing great. I think we're doing great. Steady growth. I remember at one point we were at 1,600 followers. So, so it's been growing. We've been doing great. We've had some great guests who have added extreme value, and I'm proud.
Absolutely. So we got one tonight. We got an NFL legend coming our way tonight.
Yeah.
What's his name? What's his name? Ayana.
His name is Mr. John Fitzgerald Booty.
All right. Now, without further ado, we're going to bring him to the stage, okay? Coming to the stage is former NFL legend, defensive back for the Philadelphia Eagles and numerous other teams, the Jets, the Cardinals, the Giants, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And here he is, John Booty. Mr. Booty, how you doing, sir?
Well, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for allowing me to be on the stage with you all tonight. I'm doing it virtually, so I'm not there on stage with you.
Welcome to the show. We are pleased to have you on the show, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what we're going to do, it's an honor to have you on the show. We're going to travel back through the time tunnel, okay? We're gonna go back in time. So tell the audience where you were born and raised.
Well, I was born and raised in the country in East Texas, a place called Horton Community, close to north of Houston, east of Dallas, close to the Shreveport, Louisiana area. So we were so country. We got our mail through a place called DeBerry. So I ended up going to Carthage Independent School District. So I was born and raised in East Texas, old country boy. So then just started the journey right there in 1965. Just 15 years past the midpoint of the 1900s,
Awesome. What are some of the things you did while growing up? Whether it was sports-wise or acting like a kid, youth, getting in trouble? What were some of the things you used to do?
I have a large family, and we had like 3 brothers and 5 sisters growing up, and then we were in a community of a lot of kids, boys my age, and they were so far away from where I lived, we had to walk there. But while I was growing up at home before I had the chance to go play with those other boys in the neighborhood, I had older brothers who would have friends come over, and I, as a young man, a young kid, or my brother would make me tough. about wrestling with me, making me playing football with me when I was a young age. And my mom saw that. She saw that I liked the game of football and just being tough. Just been a kid. Used to pretend that I was Superman. Used to pretend to be a construction worker like my dad. You know, and with the sisters, I would pretend to be a WWE wrestler with them. You know, a little 2, 3, 4-year-old kid. You know, being active. Loved to be with my grandmother when she was there, when mom and dad was at work and the other kids was siblings was at school. So just being a rambunctious little boy, but knew when I got that look from mom or that look from dad that I need to go sit down.
So you mentioned WWE wrestler. Did you have a favorite wrestler?
Well, growing up back in the day, the Mid-South wrestling was the Junkyard Dog was my favorite wrestler back then.
Yeah.
And fortunate for me, I've met a number of those wrestlers now since I've been out of the league, because I have some friends who work at the WWE. I met a few of them, like JBL, John Layfield, who was have this clothesline from HELL that he put on people. I don't want to say the word, but anyway, and some other guys that I know that wrestles in the WWE. Some of the guys were former football players, you know, played in the NFL for a long period of time. So growing up and from 1965 to 1970 and at home and just, you know, pretending to be a musician when I played the record player, when my sisters or brothers would go to school, after they get on the bus, I go turn the record player on and start singing, you know, just me and my youngest sister, we just pretend. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, were you playing sports while growing up, or did you wait until you went to high school and play sports?
Well, again, this is growing up in the community. We had a lot of boys my age, so we were able to play sports against each other. The sunlight football was just something that can teach you how to play football, because you showed me in the pre-production of the show, you had this mug, and we used to love the Dallas Cowboys growing up. Even though I got that Eagles behind me, we loved the Dallas Cowboys, and we would love to pretend we would be the Dallas Cowboys, and the other team would be the Washington Redskins. So that's where I learned how to play football with the guys my age. There was a lot of us, and we get out there and play tackle football in the yard or in a pasture, and just we would knock the stuffers out of each other and get each other tough, and we would learn how to attack the ball, and we knew that we wanted to be football players when we made it to high school. But we loved the Dallas Cowboys. We loved them so much that one year my mom bought me a Dallas Cowboys uniform when I was like 6 years old. She told everybody I was going to be a pro football player.
Well, you know, Mr. Booty, I'm known to put house rules on people. You know, you mentioned the Dallas Cowboys, and
Yeah,
I'm looking at that Philadelphia Eagle jersey in the back. But you know what? We're going to continue on with the show. Now, you went to college. Where did you go to college at?
Well, I went to Cisco Junior College in Cisco, Texas. It's about 100 miles west of Fort Worth, Texas, out in the middle of nowhere. And then when I left Cisco, I attended Texas Christian University, TCU. And it was a long route to get to TCU because if you want to hear a backstory on my career in the national, to get to college, I was on the 8th grade B team when we started playing organized football. We didn't play organized football like Pee Wee League or flag football and things like that. We didn't start playing until we were in junior high, and that was in the 8th grade. So I was on the 8th grade B team. And one day the coach saw me throwing the football around. Said, "John, you want to be the quarterback?" I said, "Sure, yes, I want to be. Everybody wants to be the quarterback, right?" So I became the quarterback. I was really kind of teed off because I didn't make the A team, because I thought I was just as good as those guys on the A team, but I was one of the smallest kids in the group. But my coach said, "John, you were always around the football. You were a tough, little skinny kid, but you were always around the football. You were very, very athletic." And so in 1980, when I made it to as a freshman, I wanted to play quarterback, but we had two studs on our team, two stars on our team. These guys were good, running back and a quarterback. So the head coach of the freshman football team did not give me a chance at all. He didn't even look at it, And so I was like on a back burner. And so our first game of the season of the 1980 season, the head coach on a Thursday night, we had an away game, and he wouldn't let me go on the trip. And it hurt me so hard, hurt me so bad. And growing up, since second grade, my mom drove the school bus. And so I couldn't miss school, right? So, but she saw me get on the bus, and I was depressed. I was down. And so I went home that night. Later on that night, I told Mom, I said, Mom, I'm going to quit football. And so I quit football in the ninth grade and got in PE. And the PE teacher said, John, why are you in my class? You should be playing football. You're too good of an athlete. So, and I was really upset because what the coach did to me, and it frustrated me. And then the off season, I got back into sports, ran track, got back in all-season football, and it impressed the JV coaches. They were like, where is this kid in? This kid is good. And the thing about it, as just looking back on it, as we talk about it, I was a pretty decent school teacher, a school student in the classroom. So Mom didn't have to worry about that. But I was impressed. I impressed the coaches. They were liking me. They were having me be an example of how to run the drills or how to do the drills. And they said, this kid's going to be good. And over the summer, me and my friend cousin was working out. He's like a brother to me. I don't want to mention his name because he may come after me. But he talked me out of playing football over the summer. Mm-hmm. So first day of school, I'm going to the PE class, and the teacher looks at me like, John, why are you in my class? Why are you not playing football? I said, I decided not to play. Didn't go any more details about it. So I was like a teacher pet. I was so athletic. I was like doing his job my sophomore year because he was like, Young, go teach these kids how to throw a football. Go teach them this. Go teach them that. I was in PE, and we need physical education in schools more so now. And so, but we had two of my classmates on the varsity. They were sophomores on the varsity. These guys were good. One became a world-class sprinter. Another one ended up going to TCU right out of high school. But we would go watch them play. And then it was all fate. The last game of the season, 1981, it was on a Friday Night Lights. Our varsity won. It caused a three-way tie in the district. And back then, they could only take one team from the district into the playoffs. Now they can take almost everybody in the playoffs. So we won the game, and it was like a Friday Night Lights. Have you ever seen the movie Friday Night Lights? It was just like that. Three-way tie in the district, so they can only take one. So it had to be a coin flip. And on this Friday the 13th, Friday Night Lights, Carthage High School, my high school, lost the coin flip. And so we didn't make it to the playoffs. So that upset me so bad that I decided to play football again. And over the weekend, I told my mom I was going to play football. And that Monday, when I got to PE, the PE teacher said, John, guess what? The head coach is inviting all athletes, all PE students to join athletics. And I got back into athletics. And got to tell you, the head coach, over the span of that spring semester and even into the summer, the head coach, he didn't know who I was. He like, who was that guy? 3 times he didn't know who I was. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I'll make the team as a junior. So over the summer, I worked extremely hard, and a few of the coaches like, man, this guy's talented here. So I made some plays in the scrimmage games, and that Monday before the first week of the season in 1982, head coach called me to his office. And out of the locker room, I was nervous. I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. You're going to put me on JV. So I go in to meet with him. He's like, John, you're good. You do good on scout team. You're a practice player. You're a good athlete. So we're going to you made the spot. You made the varsity. But we think that you need any experience. We're going to put you down on JV. Well, after he said I made the varsity, but he said what he said, but to me, he sounded like once he told me I made the varsity, he sounded like the Charlie Brown's teacher. when when he said go put me on JV, I'm like wah 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 wah. I said no. I am not going back down to JV. Going down to JV because I didn't play JV football last year. So the goals I wrote down to make the varsity and help my team make it to the playoffs. We did just that. Made it to the second round of the playoffs, and you got to get that feel. If you've never experienced the Friday Night Lights in Texas, it's something else. The high school, growing up, seeing the guys who played on the varsity wearing their leather jackets, and the fans, just the student body and the band and everybody, just teachers, they're just loving the football team. So I said, I got to be a part of that. And I almost blew it, but then I became a part of it. And then going into my senior year, I was considered the best athlete on the team. I had a growth spurt. I grew up like they measured me at 6'1", but I was very light, 158 pounds. And they said, man, there's bigger legs on the table. You got to put on some meat. I said, I can't. I'm trying. But I was very athletic. And I helped my team get to the semifinals. And after that, nobody wanted me out of high school. TCU did say you can come as a walk-on, but my family couldn't afford that. So the spring of '84, my senior year, my secondary coach and my head track coach asked me, John, have you heard of Cisco Junior College? I said, yes, I've heard of it. And he was like, well, they asked if Carthage had any hidden talent. And I said, oh, yeah. I said, okay, I'll talk to him. So the Cisco coach came down and visited with me and watched the film on me and said, man, we're gonna offer you a scholarship. I said, I'll come if you let me play wide receiver. Now, mind you, I only had like 2 or 3 catches my senior year. I had more interceptions than I had receptions because we ran the veer back then. So he said, I said, okay, I'll come. So that's what happened. No junior college in my home area wanted me. So, but I knew that I wanted to play. But I also had my mind made up. If I didn't make it to college, I want to work in construction just like my dad. That's family. So, but anyway, ended up going to Cisco Junior College and tried to quit after my fall semester because I came home that winter break. I tried to stay longer. My mom said, baby, isn't it time for you to be back at Cisco? I said, no, not really. And she made me go back to Cisco. So the best thing happened for me. I became one of the team captains and made All-American, all conference, and helped the team get to a playoff, not a playoff, but a bowl game, which was really cool. And then that's when a lot of teams around the country, from University of Miami, Texas A&M, Illinois, Tulane, TCU, they come recruiting me. And so I decided to go to TCU. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
So before I pass it on, I want to say welcome to the show, Henson Property, Kim Jones, Orlando Makel, Janice Lord, and one of our hosts is in the area, Jeannie Day. Welcome to the show tonight. And we got some questions for you.
Okay.
So I'm going to pass it on, and then we'll go from there.
Great. So one of the things you mentioned was that you wrote your goals down. Who taught you that?
Well, I wrote my goals. I didn't write it down in high school, but we were told to write goals down. But later on, the very coach that gave me a hard time, not my freshman year in high school, but my senior year in college, new defense coordinator, he told us to write down all our goals. And he said, I don't care if you can write down if you want to graduate, you want to play pro football, you want to own a business, you want to go on TV and all that jazz. Whatever you want to do, just write it down. So I did. I listened. I was very coachable, even though that sometimes coaches didn't care for me for some odd reason. I just wrote it down and put them away. And I would every once in a while go look at them. So my senior year, my defensive coordinator at TCU, he told us about the seriousness of writing down your goals and striving to get there. Because I told him that I didn't have when I transferred from Cisco to TCU, I didn't have the transition year that I wanted on the football field. I did in the classroom, but not on the football field because I had to get used to big time football, college programs. And I was a heck of a football player, but I didn't have the season that I wanted. And I told this new coach that I was going to make all Southwest Conference. And he's the one later on told us write down our goals. And I didn't make all Southwest Conference because I had back and forth with him. But I remembered, like my mom told me, don't quit because somebody's always watching, to remember your goals. And nobody can supplant or do away with hard work. And that's how I made the varsity my junior year, going to my junior year in high school, because the goal of mine was to make the varsity, but I was going to find the best athlete on the team, even if it's bigger, faster, and stronger. I was going to out hustle him. So writing down my goals, I knew then that, hey, these are goals that I want to attain, I want to achieve in life. And it's not going to be easy, because I know going through those 2-a-day practices or going through those mat drills or that hard practice in college back then, I'm like, if I can make it through this mess, I can make it through anything, you know?
Awesome. So, you talked about being overlooked in high school and not really having football experience growing up, other than the neighborhood and roughhousing with other boys. How did you go from being overlooked in junior high, high school, to making it into the NFL?
I guess it's that grit, always a belief in myself. And I was very observant. I didn't go in there trying to beat my chest saying I'm here. I knew I had to earn everything that I wanted. And even growing up being roughhousing with the guys I grew up with, I had to earn it with them, and they got me tough. From everything, from tackling to trash talk. They did most of the trash talk. I didn't do much trash talk because I'm like, I can't do that, because if I can't beat you, you're gonna talk trash to me. You're gonna take my spirit away from it. I'm not gonna allow that to happen. So I just be quiet and keep it going. So being overlooked, but at the same time, some of these coaches that see you, they'll question you, and they want to see how tough mentally you can be. And then I made plays in practice, and then because I was on a scout team, and those guys would try to knock your head off, especially on defense. As a scout team offensive player, I said, "Well, I'm gonna make you better, because you're not gonna hit me like that. You can't hit what you can't catch, And then I'm running scared. And then when I was on defense, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be a star. I'm gonna shut the offense down. I'm gonna make plays. Don't throw the ball my way, because I'm gonna be like, excuse my well, I have to refer back to this. I'm gonna be like Everson Walls back there. I'm gonna intercept the pass from him. So that was an old Dallas Cowboy who I was a fan of. But that it was a grit in me, and I just wanted it to a degree where I got pounced on, and I got coached really hard. Constructive criticism that felt like it wasn't constructive criticism that that I just had in me to just keep moving. And in honesty, before I quit football in the 9th grade, we were in practice, and it was a hot Texas day. I thought I was about to pass out. I remember my mom drove the bus, right? And the bus was on that route through, and she would blow the horn, and she smiled, and I could see a big, beautiful face and a pretty smile of my mom. So I just got strong again, So those were one of the things that I would remember when I was going through all kinds of, excuse my language, from hell, what my mom was saying, and seeing her smile, and that grit I had to see her smile, and see that I'm accomplishing something that she wanted me to be, a pro football player. So when I went through my stuff from high school to college, and then just making it to the National Football League, our goal came true.
So tell us about, the first call. Like, how did, what was it like? Who called you to the NFL? Was it a phone call? Were you in a practice? Like, how did you find out that you were being scouted for the NFL?
Well, let me go back a little bit on my senior year at TCU. I had some trouble with this coach, but I never quit. And he always said, "John, you just slow down." And then when the pro scouts came, man, I told him what that coach said. The pro scout said, "Whatever you do, don't listen to that coach. You always go 100 miles an hour. You hustle." And after the senior season of TCU, that fall semester, I got invited to the NFL Combine. There was a lot of stars inside the NFL Combine in 1988. We have like 7 guys in the Hall of Fame now from my class in 1988. So I was at the NFL Combine, and then my agent was out of Atlanta. So he said, "John, you're going to get drafted between the 5th and 9th round. So we want you to come to Atlanta." So I'll go to Atlanta, and it was a Sunday and Monday. Was it Sunday and Monday? Yeah, Sunday and Monday draft day. The first 6 rounds on that Sunday, the 6 through 12 round, 12th round was on that Monday. So I said, okay. So I didn't get drafted in the 9th round. So I was upset. I'm like, they said from the 5th through the 9th round, I was going to get drafted. So I asked my agent, the guy that works with my agent, I said, "Man, I gotta go. I gotta go home. I'm ready to go home. We'll just discuss what we're gonna do about as being a free agent when I get back to Texas and see who we're gonna sign with." He said, "Okay." So take me to the Atlanta airport, and I'm in the Atlanta airport, and I hear John Booty call the agent. I look at the guy who was with me. I was like, "Man, did you hear my name on the intercom?" He said, "I did." I'm like, "What's going on here?" So I hear again, John Booty call the agent. So I'm like, "What the heck going on here?" So I get on the phone with my agent, and he said, "John, you just got drafted by the New York Jets in the 10th round." Oh my goodness. I'm on a payphone in the Atlanta airport. People must have thought I was crazy because they were walking by. I was celebrating with perfect strangers. Didn't know who they were. I was just, "Hey, I just got drafted by the New York Jets." "Oh, you got drafted going to the military?" I said, "No, the New York Jets. I'm going to be a New York Jet." So New York Jets player. So I was excited and celebrating with strangers inside the Atlanta airport. But I couldn't wait to get home. But if you ever flown out of Atlanta, man, there's always a delay. So I didn't get home till about 1 o'clock that night.
Wow. Well, here's a question from
On your mom.
Here's a question from one of our viewers. Kim Jones asks, "When did you really know that you could play in the league?"
When did I really know? Well, I knew that I could play in the National Football League when I made the varsity. When I made the Jets squad my rookie year. And then I was a special teams guy, and mainly, but I impressed the coaches and the scouts leading up to the regular season. And then I knew I could play when one of my teammates got injured, and they said, "John, you got to go ahead and play now." and it was against the Houston Oilers, one of my home state teams, right? So we played in New York. I was with the Jets, of course, and I was nervous the first time I lined up at the dime back on the outside left corner, and my knees were shaking. And I think the receiver said, "Well, we got number 42. He's nervous out there." I said, "Wow." And I said, "John, you better get your act together." We do a lot. I did a lot of self-talking to myself as an athlete, and they threw a nice fade down the sideline against me, and I picked the pass off in the end zone. And my psyche went up. My confidence exploded. And we ended up beating the Houston Oilers like 45-3 that day. And I almost had another interception. And so later on, I'm like, "Man, maybe I can play this game." And then like 6 weeks later, maybe 4 or 5 weeks later, we were playing against the Miami Dolphins. I did well against Dan Marino, who was a high priest of passing back then. And then we were playing a team that I didn't like growing up because they would beat my team, Dallas Cowboys, in the Super Bowl, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I had to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I had like as a rookie, I was I was named Tom's neutralizer player of the game because I had an interception, I had a fumble recovery, I blocked a punt, and it was like one of the best games for a rookie who come off the bench, to the point where the commentators called me an understudy, had stolen the show, So I knew then, hey, I've made an impression my rookie year, that I can last long in this league, I can stay healthy, and have talent will travel. The 5 teams, I appreciate every last one of them because I made a mark on it. So that's when I learned that I can play in the National Football League my rookie year, because I was coming off the bench and making plays, and I played every position in the secondary.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now you mentioned a good game as a rookie. Rosalind Wright asks, what was your most exciting year in the NFL?
Most exciting year in the National Football League. Let's see here. Well, that rookie year was my most exciting year because I made an impression. But I was not considered a starter because they had some guys who was second and third rounds, and guys ahead of me. They had to. I don't want to say it was political, but they was like, well, we got to get you on the field because you're making plays. But my rookie year was the year that started out for me, that got me noticed around the National Football League. But I think one of my favorite years, beside my rookie year, 1988, was 1992. I had made up my mind that I play nickel and dime situations. I'm good with that. But it's time for me to make a name for myself. I want to be a starter. So in 1991, playing for the Philadelphia Eagles, we had the number 1 ranked defense in the league. We had Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Clyde Simmons, Steph Jordan, Eric Allen. We had hellacious secondary and defense. We were the number 1 ranked defense in the league. People said, I talked to Gary Clark about this. He said, yeah, but last game of the season, Joe Gibbs took all the starters out. I said, no, I played that game. No, he didn't. He took Mark Rippon out because we were knocking the devil out of him. But y'all wanted to win that game, so we lost Randall Cunningham that year. We had the number 1 ranked defense, but 92 was my breakout year as a player, because my goal that year was go into training camp and compete to become a starting cornerback, because Eric Allen was our All-Pro cornerback, number 21, who's going into the Hall of Fame this year. And he was a 1988 draftee as well. So I'm not going to get his position, but that other position is open. So I ended up earning it, became the starter at cornerback, and then Wes Hopkins, our free safety, gets hurt, and they moved me to free safety. So I ended up playing 2 goals came in life, I guess. I ended up becoming the starting corner and a starting free safety for the Philadelphia Eagles, and we made it to the playoffs. First time. Buddy Ryan didn't make that happen for him. Richie Kotite and Bud Carson did. We make it to the playoffs, and I'm like, okay, we got a chance. I want to see Michael Jackson in the Super Bowl because he was performing at halftime, and those doggone Dallas Cowboys beat us in a division round. So that's got to be 1992 is my favorite year. Is my breakout year as well, as far as making a little cash and making a name for myself.
Well, Mr. Booty, I got a question from Orlando Mako, but if I could remember, the Redskins beat you guys twice that year.
Well, your memory is wrong, sir.
Uh-oh.
They in 1991, they went to the Super Bowl year. That's their Super Bowl year. They beat us. I didn't play this game, but we came down to RFK Stadium. They beat us 23-0. They stomped a mud hole in us that night and walked it dry. But the last game of the season, we beat them 24-22, I believe that's the score. In 1995, we came down to RFK. They beat us. And then and not 1995, 1992. And then the second game in Philadelphia, it always happen this way. We beat them in Philadelphia. They beat us in Washington. So, remember, it didn't serve you correctly on that one, sir, because I was going to.
Hey, but before I pass it on, Orlando.
He had to throw that in there.
Orlando Mako said, when you wrote your goals down, who did you show them to?
When I wrote them down, I didn't show them to anybody.
Okay.
I put them somewhere. I kept a lot of notes, but I knew where I put them, but I wasn't showing them to anybody because we were told, hey, write them down. These are for you. Don't share everything you know or what you want to do, because sometimes people can bring that bad energy and mess it up. Because you got a lot of naysayers out there. Believe you me, I had a lot of naysayers and a lot of how did he make it. So when I wrote my goals down, we all knew we had goals. I left them when nobody could see them. They were just my personal possession. And each week during the season, each week I would have a goal. This is what I'm going to play. This is how I'm going to play in this game. This is how I'm going to put myself in position to make this play. So I had weekly goals. And so, but life after the game, I had goals for that and wrote it down, but I didn't share with anybody. And once I attained it, I was, hey, Mom. I would go to Mom first. Hey, this is what I accomplished. So I kept them to myself.
Okay. All right. On you, Ayana.
All right, so let's fast forward a little bit. So how did your career end in the NFL? Like, was it an injury? Was it a decision to retire? Tell us about that transition.
Well, I ended up playing after the Eagles. I strained my hamstring, 92, but I got it, back well. So I'm going to the Cardinals as a free agent, then learn the business of football when a new coach come in again. Then to the Giants, signed a one-year deal with them, and then ended up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 1995. And I hit a lot of goals there. I played in over 100 games. I want to play 10 years in the league, but 8 years for a guy who wasn't supposed to be in the league, I count that as a blessing. So I tore my hamstring in 1995, and really, really bad. So they had to put me on injured reserve, and I couldn't come back from it. And then I was in training camp on a Tony Dungy in Tampa Bay, and the first game of the season, preseason, I'm running down on a kickoff, and I pull my hamstring, and I'm like, wow, this is not good. So I go to the trainer. I said, I just strained my hamstring. He said, well, go down on next special teams play, go down and see how it feels. So a punt come up, and we punted off, and I'm running down the field, and I'm like, oh, geez, I cannot move. I ran through it, but I didn't want to see I didn't want anybody to see me limping, And so I go to the sideline. I said, Chris, I had trainer. I said, Chris, I'm out. I can't play anymore. And then right then and there, I'm like, and this is the first preseason game. I was like, well, this is it. My career is done because this thing is torn real bad, and I'm just gonna mess my body up worse to get back at it. And then I ended up getting cut by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which was a peaceful thing. I knew I couldn't play. I would have been lagging around or hurting the team by not being at 100%. And so I decided, I didn't decide for myself that I was done. The league did, the team did, and a couple of teams like, hey, we're gonna keep you in our notes if something happened. I said, if it does, it does. I want to get this thing rehab, and I will stay in shape. But I just knew then. And I called my mom and said, Mom, that's it. I'm cut, and this is my 9th training camp. The first time ever getting cut in training camp. It was a heartbreak. Now it doesn't feel good to get fired from your job, and but I looked at the big picture. I did 8 instead of none, and I'm a vested veteran. I got that pinned down, and so I'm like, yeah, okay. I still got my thoughts and the rest of my body. I just got to get the hamstring fixed well enough to just move around. And so in 1996, I just moved here to Maryland, and so there was a transition period. But that was the deal. 1996 training camp with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was it. And then in the offseason of 97, Dan Reeves was with the Atlanta Falcons. He brought me in because he coached me in New York with the Giants. And I ran the 40. Man, my hamstring was just still hurting. But we didn't sign a contract. And I'm like, well, my career in the National Football League is done. So I got to move on to the next thing. And so I started rehashing my goals, what I want to do. And man, that's a blessing. And things started happening the way I wanted to happen, even though I was in a foreign land, because I had no intention of moving to Washington, D.C., But I was married at the time. The lady who I was married to was from this area. And I came here for family purposes and make the best of it, I thought, So, but a long answer to your question is the summer of 1996 in training camp, I got cut by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I knew then I had started working on other things.
You're doing great. So, were you preparing yourself prior to exiting the NFL to move on to the next thing? Or was it something that you had to kind of come up with as you were exiting?
Well, I always prepared myself because when I was my third year with the New York Jets, before I got put on Plan B to come to Philadelphia, we were playing the Dallas Cowboys, and one of the media folks said, "John, you from Dallas? You from Fort Worth? Was you a Cowboys fan growing up?" I said, "Yes." And then all of a sudden we got to talk about media, and I was a speech communications major. I hadn't got my degree yet. Speech communications major at TCU because I was afraid to speak in front of folks. So I used that as a mechanism to get me to do a better speaker in front of people, And so the guy asked me, said, "John, what do you want to do when you retire from football?" It's my third year in the league. I said, "I want to do what you do." He said, "You want to get in the media?" I said, "Sure, why not? I mean, I'm a speech communication major. Might as well learn much as I possibly can." He said, "Well, I will have a number for you. And I want you to call this person." He said, "Are you going to enroll at TCU during the offseason?" I said, "Sure, yes, I am." He said, "Well, I'll give you a number to call." He gave me this number, and it was WFAA TV in Dallas. And a guy by the name of George Reba, I called George, and George Reba said, "John, good to hear from you, but I'm going to put you in contact with Janet Johnson, who works with all the interns, help kids get interns, college students get interns." And so that off season, I enrolled at TCU, and I have a meeting with Janet Johnson at WFAA TV in Dallas, and I end up getting an internship at a WFAA TV. And so that was one of my goals. So when I moved here, fast forward to moving here, I'm like, what am I going to do? And I learned, being in this area, people like to network and want to know what you do. And I met, I don't know if you ever remember a guy by the name of Glenn Harris, who used to be with News Channel 8 on TV. And so he remembered my name. He was like, "Man, you used to play for the Eagles, right?" I said, "Yeah, everybody remember me from the Eagles, but I had better games when I was with the Giants." But anyway, he said, "Come be on my show." So I started doing work with him. And when I moved here, and then another thing that I did when my rookie year with the Jets in 1988, there was a gentleman that worked with us, Dr. Ernie Turner, that helped guys go back and get their degrees. And I saw, it was by fate, I saw Dr. Turner here, and he was like, "John, have you got your degree yet?" I said, "No." So in 96, I met Glenn Harris. In 97, I met Dr. Turner, and he worked with me at TCU to help me get courses to take that would transfer back to TCU in 98 so I can walk across the stage, and I had to be on campus. So it all worked out where the people that I met early in my career, they came back into my career, into my life after I retired from football. And then the brand that I built for myself, meeting the people in the National Football League or the Washington Redskins or the media here that covered the Redskins that remembered me, and start building those relationships. And so, and then at the same time, I was down home visiting family in Texas at a Cowboys game, and in the old place I used to go work out when I was living in Texas during the off season. The guy asked me, "John, what do you want to do when you retire from football since you're out of the game?" I said, "Well, I want to own a health club. That's one of my goals." I said that to him. He said, "Man, you need to meet my brother." So I met his brother, and next thing I know, I'm talking to this company called ACS, and I'm like, "Wow, we can make this happen." So I'm back on campus at TCU to earn my degree, and I'm starting up a health club. And so I was able to get my degree in 98, and it was not an easy task, but I got the health club open in a world gym in Largo in 1999. So I hit that entrepreneur and an educator. I mean, been educated, but I did that by networking with people, and I guess not burning any bridges or keeping the open lines of communications of people I met in the past, and using the brand to get what I need, but I have to produce to get to the next level. So I was able to, find some investors for the health club, which was a different story. We'll talk about that later when I talk about that tonight. But walking across the stage and seeing my mom, beautiful smile, promise kept for our family, mom and dad, and then owning a business, owning a health club, which I love because I like health and fitness. I still like to work out, and I still like to do things. I still do things because I'm a coach and a player for the Congressional Football Game for charity that raises money for the Capitol Police Memorial Fund that I've been a part of for 20 years. So I'm a lazy person when it's time to be lazy, but when it's time to hit the ground and roll, especially if it's in my wheelhouse, I'm going to do it. And that's the goals I will set for myself, and be there for my family as much as I possibly can, and for myself.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, back to you, Armand.
So I'm going to ask you what everybody wants to know. Who was the toughest receiver that you had to go up against?
Wow. Now, I got to tell you, I played against James Lofton and Andre Reed, who are Hall of Famers with the Buffalo Bills, right? I had to play against the posse. Well, Mark Clayton and Mark Duper with Miami Dolphins,
Mm-hmm.
So then coming to the NFC, I had to play against the posse, Art Monk, Ricky Sanders, Gary Clark, then Michael Irvin. Mm-hmm. And then I had to play against Jerry Rice. Of all those guys who made me nervous to play against was Jerry Rice. See, I was a big guy, big corner. And when I had to go down and get physical, I can get physical with Art Monk and Michael Irvin, but in my limited time because I also moved to safety. But Jerry Rice was something else. But I have to say that Ricky Sanders and Gary Clark, because they're sort of shorter, fast twitch, you can't hardly get a hand on them. And if you do, if you miss, you blow, So, but out of that group, it's hard to say, but I got to say, the limited time I had to play against Jerry Rice was a limited time that I was more nervous, but I couldn't let them see me do it. But I couldn't let them see me sweat. And they're going to, if you're not a constant starter and you get there as a new guy, they're going to test you. Now, I played against Tim Brown, who's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. It's just, the sky's the limit, but just to pick out one in my limited time playing against him as a corner, it would be Jerry Rice.
Wow, that says a lot. He is the ultimate GOAT.
He's the ultimate, man. We ask people, what makes him so special? Because his motor is always running. Not saying the other guy's motor wasn't running all the time, but you couldn't tell if he was going to block or go out for a pass. And then if the ball is thrown on the other side of the field, he's in front of you to block. Some guys back then didn't like to block. There was a few guys like he and Taylor loved to block. Some players are like, okay, they running from me. I have to shield you. And these guys look to hit you,
Well, one thing that stuck out with me, John, is today's athletes are bigger, faster, and stronger. However, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think yesterday's athlete was more dedicated to the game than they are today.
Well, I agree with you on that. They're bigger, faster, and stronger. And they also got social media with them. And they got better nutritional aspect of it, better training. Back in the days, way before I played, guys had second jobs during off season.
Wow.
And they used training camp to get in shape. Yes. We didn't make the money that these guys make now, And so we had this set up now with our mentality back then, we would be head and shoulders. People like, man, you guys are just as we are the greatest athletes in our time.
Yeah.
Because they are the greatest ones for their time right now. But our mentality, again, back then we had 2-a-days, sometimes 3-a-days, and those 2-a-days would go 2 hours, and we had water breaks. We didn't have that glory. We didn't have the option to just go get water anytime you want.
Yeah.
And when you, man, I've had almost heat strokes walking into the locker room, cramping up. They have to give you IVs. That's scary. But hey, get right back out there. You get a little concussion, feather salt. You get back out there.
That's how it was,
That's how it was. Yeah.
You got your bell wrong. Just get back out there.
That's the bell is still ringing. Some of us back even now it's still ringing a little bit. I'm laughing, but at the same time it's scary because I see some of my guys like, man, got this faraway look in his eyes, like, man, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. It's okay. I got to check up on our guys, man. That's what we got to do.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to ask you one more thing. Then I'm going to allow Yana to say what she have to say. Then we're going to close this out, okay?
Okay.
Who's your pick to win the Super Bowl this year?
Did he ask me that question?
It's okay if you say the Commanders, because
you know what? It's okay. To be honest with you, it's truly okay to say the Commanders, but I can't. I can't. Read what I say. I can't because Howie Roseman of the Philadelphia Eagles have these. Unless there's some bad luck happen for the Philadelphia Eagles, they have a chance to repeat. They have a greater chance to repeat than other teams. Now, hear me out now. That team here in Washington is very scary. They got a quarterback, and all they need to do is just block for this kid and have the receivers to do their job. They got Scary Terry. Now they got Debo. They signed Zach Ertz back. So they have the weapons in place. They got to shore up their defense a little bit. And they scared the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game. The Eagles had to start making some plays in the second half.
5 turnovers. You take away the 5 turnovers, different game.
What? Take away. The deal is, now, those turnovers just wasn't like, okay, here, I'm going to turn the ball over. Eagles made plays by knocking the ball out and making plays. Now, again, I had picked the Commanders to go 10-7 last year. People were like, oh, you lost your mind. It's a new coach, do this. I said, why not them?
Yeah.
And they exceeded so badly, so much that they scared me in the NFC Championship game. But I can see it's a bright future for the Washington Commanders, man. It is. If they don't go next year, they'll go to the following year because they got a great coach, Dan Quinn. I think the NFC East is going to be that battle like it used to be.
Absolutely.
You win the East, you can win the Super Bowl.
I agree. Go ahead, Yana.
So we know that you are involved in some community work. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing out in the community. I believe you have some yearly events you attend and some other cool things you're doing with community work and involvement. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, I just finished up. I was invited on Sunday to go play in Governor Westmore's golf tournament, and he's trying to get the Preakness to up to par. I played in this golf tournament. But one of my biggest events that I work with Ken Harvey game is the Congressional Football Game for Charity. It's for the Capitol Police Memorial Fund, A Advantage for Kids, our military kids, the Boys and Girls Club. And we have the members of Congress, both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, play together with 2 NFL legends playing a game of football against the Capitol Police. It's hilarious. A lot of hamstrings are pulled out there, and but it's fun for the charity. The NFL is our biggest sponsor. We play at Audi Field, so those are the things that I do. That's really my main one. I'm going up to Philadelphia this weekend for the Eagles Autism Challenge. I have a team that I raise money for the Eagles Autism Challenge because of I like just giving back to the community, and I also team up with whomever, like Gary Clark, if he's doing something in the community, or we team up with Santana Moss. We use our brand to get folks to come out But I'm gonna say, I always say, let's do something that we are value added. We can always show up, but is it longevity? Like a good friend of mine, Becky Lee, she has a Walk This Way, Becky Lee's domestic violence, the Becky's Fund. Well, we do a fashion. We did a fashion show back in the day. She says coming back, where we did a fashion show for domestic violence awareness and raise money for her organization. And then other things we normally do, and we lend out support to go and every once in a while speak at youth clinics, football clinics, or speak to organizations who may want to use our brand. Because one thing we've learned now that nobody knows who we are, but they can Google us and say, "Oh yeah, you did play football. You just didn't have an espresso in the league. You had really about 8 cups of coffee." So you can come and tell us about yourself and how can you inspire others to write down a goal. So those are things that we do in the community. Our NFL DC Player Association chapter here in DC, we try to do stuff because there's a lot of guys here who didn't play for the Commanders or the Redskins or the Ravens, play to other teams, but they're from here, so they want to give back to the community and use their brand to help others achieve their goals. So that's what we do in the community, and myself.
Wonderful. Well, this has been an exciting interview. You have a very fascinating story. I appreciate you for coming on the show. Our viewing audience was completely tuned in and just excited. We have so many questions. We couldn't even get to all the questions that are in the chat. So we have to have you back at a future time.
Well, I'd love to. And tomorrow I got to be on Capitol Hill because a congressman out of Texas, out of Fort Worth, Texas, asked me to come. They're doing a youth sport, and the NFL asked me to come as well to talk about youth sports and athletics and PE, physical education in schools. And I'm a big proponent of that because as this young kid growing up in Texas, we got to get these kids more active because as we get older, obesity is looking at us in the face. And those are some things that we inherit from our families that come at us as well. So we got to stay on top of that.
Absolutely. Armand,
what encouraging
go ahead and close us out.
What encouraging word would you want to leave everyone before we close this out?
Well, encouraging word is when I'm down and out, I always say the word energy. Try to find you some energy in something. I mean, go for walks, have a positive mindset, listen to music, reflect on something that happened to you in your childhood that bring a smile to your face. Find that energy.
Awesome. This was a great show. I'd like to thank you for being a part of our show tonight. For everyone out there, we try giving you the best possible each week. But it costs to really keep this show going. If you can donate to the show, or there's the Cash App. You want to cross a screen there. If you want to be a sponsor, you can also sponsor the Legend from the Past and future show. Don't be afraid. We welcome you. The show is growing each week. Hey, last night we awarded scholarships. 2 or 3 months ago, we awarded Legend of the Future awards and Legend from the Past award. Now, next week, we're going to have a show. It's going to be a roundtable show. And the reason why I'm doing this is because a lot of you didn't know about 3 or 4 Wednesdays ago, I had a mini stroke. So we're going to have a health roundtable next week, and we're going to discuss some serious things that we need to do as we age and even while we're young, eating properly, the proper nutrition, working out. There's so many things you have to do for your health, and one is taking that serious. So join us next week for a medical roundtable. We're going to have a medical roundtable with some guests. We're going to talk about some serious issues concerning the Black family, people in general, eating habits, everything. 8 o'clock next week. We look forward to seeing you. Mr. Booty, hold tight.
Mhm.
Everyone else, thanks for joining us, and peace.